I was one of the only guys that had a 4-track recorder back in the day, right? And and one of the only guys that had a job to be able to afford to have one of those too at the same time.
What were you doing? Where were you working?
At that point, I was working in a library.
Okay.
And saved up my money, bought a 4-track so that I could record my song ideas. I started getting into songwriting, right? And so my friends would call me and they'd be like, hey, man, can you come and record, whatever? I'd be like, sure, because I looked at it as a learning experience.
Yeah.
I was never like, well, you got any money?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to pay me? I was like, no, we're bros, we're friends.
Yeah.
We're in it for the same thing. Let me try it. And I've always been that way. Let me be as supportive as I can, right? So I would go, and on one of those occasions, Tony was like, hey, let me ask you something. Do you ever consider playing Tejano music? And I'm like, no, dude. And he's like, dude, we could make like $20 a gig and get like 3 gigs on the weekend. And in rock, I was making 0. So $20 to me was like, I could make 60, 20 times 3 a weekend. So where do I sign up? You know what I mean? I'll learn it, and I'll admit, I kind of thought it's simple stuff. What's the big deal? What I'm playing now is it got to be 100 times more difficult to play on guitar than this other stuff. Little did I know.
No, man, yeah. And
So-
same with the singing.
Yeah.
Hey, just because you can sing an Iron Maiden song doesn't necessarily mean you can sing a Tejano song. Dude.
Yeah, exactly. And
There's a lot more. There's a different formula to it. It's different. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I couldn't tell the difference between David Lee Garza, La Mafia, Mas, which now in a second I can tell you who it is within the first. You just start the music like, oh, that's so and so, whatever.
Yeah.
But when I first started, it wasn't like that, and I was like, okay, $60 a weekend potentially. That's not even a for sure thing. I'll do it. So that's when I met Shelly, and Tony played keyboards. I played the guitar, and my boy Rudy, who was in the rock band with me, Martinez, who ended up with La Mafia, that was his first entryway, because we were best friends at the time.
That's the bass player from La Mafia,
Yeah.
right? The one that was with. Is he still with them?
No.
Okay.
No. And he left them when I went to make Resurrection. But so Rudy and I joined Tony, and we made Shelly's band. And so then we started playing with Shelly, and we would do gigs. I don't think we ever made like $60 a weekend.
Dude,
when
I
we
remember
first
her
started.
coming to Harlingen, and shit, we all were barely starting, bro.
I think that was us. Yeah, at the
Yeah.
New Variety. Where's the New
Yeah, no,
Variety?
it was called Chulas. It was called Chulas. It was Shooters and it was Bogies. It was Shooters after Chulas, but it was Bogies and then Chulas.
Dude,
and I remember meeting Shelly's dad, and Shelly was like tiny, dude. You
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah, I was tiny too at the time. Man. I think I was like 18 years
you
old.
were a
but-
young band, super
Dude.
young.
Yeah, and that's when, looking back on it now, that's when being on the road like that or doing these gigs and meeting certain types of people, it's kind of when I started getting a taste of some of the trappings that come along with being in a band, and people just wanting to kind of like, they think you're cool now because you're in a band, so let me give you a little of this, or here, try some of that or whatever. And I was the willing guinea pig at the time, going with whatever, just having a good time.
Yeah.
And that lasted for a minute.
Like with Shelly Lares, her dad was running the show too, right?
Mhm. Yeah, a
So
lot of similar.
I know similarities with Selena's.
Yeah, well,
outfit.
they used. I think they modeled Selena's situation.
Yeah.
For themselves.
And when you
as
were
well.
playing with Shelly, you all were like 16, 17 years old. Were you
I'm
all
a little
young?
older. I had just graduated, and I
Okay.
graduated, like I said, early.
Because Shelly
so I
was,
was 18.
she was very.
She was
young.
still in school.
Yeah, she was still in school when
Yeah.
I met her that she was performing. So her dad really kept everybody kind of like a chaperone. Did he take-
Yeah. It was like that. I mean, like we said, the similarities were. I mean, they kind of based it on that for a reason. Shelly's family did, and it was because it had worked so far for Selena.
Yeah.
Here she was with a couple of records under her belt already that were under Manny's label at the time. And they had the bus. It was still gutted out. It hadn't been remodeled yet. That was right around when I had joined them that it was being remodeled. But
And you were just about to, go join Selena, right? Right when you were with Shelly.
no, actually, I was in Shelly's band. And then Tony, because they're family, so they had run into some butted heads, him and her dad or whatever. And he says, listen, hey, I'm going to quit, but don't leave her. You guys stay. And I'm the type of guy that, man, well, then I'm out too, man. Forget this, whatever. He's like, don't, just stay. And things are starting to look good and, you know, whatever. Which then she signed a deal with Manny. Then she was going to make her first record. So she and I wrote, I believe, 3 songs together. And we were young. So here we go. That's when we started going down that road. The 3 songs ended up on her record. But it just, I don't know, man. Just things kind of started falling apart a little bit, you know, with the guys in the band, myself, her. It was just, the grass was starting to look greener on the other side for me. And then this was around the time that La Sombra was huge, right? And one of their members, Albert Tiger Diaz, was going to leave and go solo. And somebody came to me and was like, you got to try jamming with this dude, whatever. And
I love his first album, man.
Yeah, that was
He had
us.
a great voice.
Compasión was the name of the album.
one with that starts with the horn. It was like the saxophone, because, you know, Tiger played sax.
Yeah. So I met Albert, and we sat down, hit it off, started playing together. And then he wanted to do a demo at Manny's, and I was like, not a problem. We went into Manny's, Rudy and I, and we tracked with him. And I guess word had gotten back to Shelly and them, and then there was some discussion about me working with other people and whatever, and it just left a bad taste, you know what I mean, in everybody's mouth, and I didn't want to deal with it. So my attitude got pissy, and basically I got let go. You know, and I remember her dad, he was still cool about it when he did it. Like, we sat down and he's like, you know, basically says that they're gonna let me go, and he goes, but he says, son, I know you have what it takes, and you're gonna do something. And at the time I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. You know, all right, I'm out of here anyway. I'm gonna go jam with this dude, and which is what I did. And I had already met AB at that point.